Hey guys, what's up, Zach? So today we are here with a different type of video. It's sort of an F1 news style video, and today we're going to be talking about 3-car teams in Formula 1, which Bernie Ecclestone over the last couple of race weekends has really been hinting to the press that he'd like to see in Formula 1. If not next year in 2015, but maybe in 2016, when a lot of people haven't got their contract sorted out, so it'll be a lot easier to switch it up to 3-car teams. So basically, I'll leave an Autosport article down below so you can read it all for yourself, but I've got sort of the highlights here. Ecclestone says he wants 3-car teams and the smaller teams in Formula 1 to quit, like Caterham and Marussia, because he reckons it would be better for F1 and make it more competitive for lots of people to be fighting up there for the top 10, not just the same old 5-6 teams every single race. He says that F1 teams really should be aiming to spend about 150 million euros to properly set up a Formula 1 team now, including a sim, wind tunnel, all that sort of stuff. And he's thinking that teams like Caterham and Marussia are spending nowhere near that sort of amount of money, and really just sitting at the back of the grid, getting paid drivers just to keep the team alive. So that's what Bernie Ecclestone is saying in the press, and it's an interesting point because at the end of the day, Caterham and Marussia, it's nice to see a couple of extra drivers get some chances in the smaller teams, but really Caterham and Marussia really aren't doing a huge amount for the sport. They're sitting at the back of the grid every single race. Obviously, I don't want people to lose their jobs. Obviously, there are hundreds of people working in both those teams, and I don't want them to see, don't want to see them losing their jobs. So that's a big point about why people probably don't want to see this change happen. But at the end of the day, Caterham and Marussia, they've only scored 2 points between them, and they're both those points have been from Marussia over the last 5 years, or 5 seasons I should say. So it's really not been a great time for them. They really haven't really excelled to what we'd expect by now. We'd expected by about 2012 for them to be challenging in the points, but really it just shows you how sort of tough F1 is nowadays, about how hard it is to grow a Formula 1 team. A lot easier, I'd say, about 15-20 years ago, when it was sort of a lot cheaper in relative terms, I think. So we'll see, but I think this is an interesting point from Ecclestone. He's saying that 3-car teams might be better because it might mean that a lot more people are competing for that top 10 slot. But then I also think if we have 3-car teams, well, basically it could be three teams in the top 10 every race, and then just one person scoring other points. So it could be good for the sport, but it could also be very bad on the opposite, because we could also have every single driver on the podium could be a Mercedes driver, for example, every single race of the season. If a car had as much of an advantage as the Mercedes did this year, we could see a Mercedes podium locked out every single race, and that would be pretty boring. And I think from the outside, if we had that every single race on a lot of races, the outsider of Formula 1 would be saying, well, F1 isn't very competitive, it's just the same team winning every single race, locking out the podium every single race. And what's the point of me watching it? I know the results at the end of the day, it's going to be those same drivers, so what's the point of me watching that? I think that's why F1 has always been great, the fact that you'll see different people on the podium each and every time. It's not going to be the same 3 people on the podium every single time, which is the risk if you do have these 3-car teams, in my opinion. And we could be losing potential fans if they see, oh, F1's a bit boring, it's the same 3 cars every single race on the podium. We could be losing new fans, and even though the racing could be great from the cars behind, the people at the front could be just dominating the sport and making it really boring. And at the end of the day, we all of us, except if you're a really big Vettel fan, none of us liked seeing Vettel dominate the second half of the season last year. Even if you're a Vettel fan, I think you'd say it would be nice to see him have a bit of competition, and I think none of us want to see a sort of repeat of that in future years. I mean, even this year, Mercedes have been very, very good, but Ricciardo, when they've messed up, Ricciardo's been there to pounce on those mistakes. Even Vettel in Singapore nearly got that. So, in my opinion, it's an idea, but I think it needs to be refined. And in my opinion, a good thing that they could do, if they have this 3rd driver role, the 3rd driver could be a rookie. That's what a lot of people have been saying. I'd quite like to see that. A rookie, or maybe a guy with only 1 year's experience, for example. So we could see maybe in, for example, like a Lotus car, we could see Grosjean, Maldonado, and then a rookie maybe from GP2, like maybe Palmer. Maybe we could see Nasser in there, or maybe we could see Marcus Ericsson, who's had 1 year's of experience, but it's still in relative terms he's nowhere near as experienced as someone like Maldonado or Grosjean, for example, that have been in F1 for a good couple of years now. So in my opinion, that would be quite a good idea to have that 3rd driver as someone that maybe even brings in quite a bit of money if you're one of the smaller teams that are still in F1 with these 3-car teams. Maybe it could be a paid driver, the other 2 could be like Hulkenberg or I don't know, Hulkenberg and a Button, for example, that don't really bring in much money. And then the third driver could be someone like a Maldonado that brings in a lot of money to the team. Who knows? I don't really know what they could do with that third driver role, but as I was talking to Alex Gillen about this actually on Twitter, and he's saying having all these sort of rules about what the third car can and can't be would make it quite confusing for the viewer on the outside. It's like, why is the third driver always slower than the other guys? I don't know. It would be quite weird, I know, to have the third driver as maybe a guy with limited experience, but it would also give guys in something like GP2 a really sort of good chance of getting into a sort of a decent F1 seat, if that makes any sense. I mean, in recent years it's really been hard for a GP2 driver to get into F1, and we've seen that the last couple of years the GP2 champion hasn't got into F1, and even if they've had a huge amount of money like Fabio Lima did, he still couldn't get into Formula 1 even with that massive budget. So this could be good. It could also give the reserve drivers, you know, people like Alex Rossi or Robin Freins, we could see them in Formula 1, people that don't really bring in a massive amount of money. I know Rossi brings in quite a bit of money, but not like enough to really keep him through a full season. It could give them a chance as well. And I know this makes it even more complicated, but maybe they could do it so the third car, the third placed car out of the three doesn't score points. So, you know, the lowest scoring one out of the three doesn't score points and something. I don't really know how it's going to work out, but there's so many things that can be refined and, you know, stuff that can be done for this. But I hope it doesn't go ahead for next year, because it would just make it too much too quickly. They need to really think about this before they go ahead with it. But it's a rumour that has been going around the F1 paddock for the last couple of months now, and obviously Bernie Ecclestone at the head of F1 has got the power to do pretty much anything he wants with the sport. So let's hope he doesn't do it for next year. If he does really want to go ahead with this idea, let it be in a couple of years' time after it's all been refined and we've got good ideas about what's happening with it. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and it's been Alex Maley. Goodbye.